Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's session, Ingredients for Successful School Parent Communication. Today's presenter is Claressa Hinton Thompson. She works for the Carolina Family Engagement Center, also known as CFEC. She is the Family Engagement Liaison for the Low Country. Claressa is very passionate and intentional regarding her efforts around student success and supporting families. And she is also my amazing coworker.
Thanks, Renina. That's like the best greeting I've ever had. So good afternoon. As Renina said, I am the Low Country rep for Carolina Family Engagement Center. And so I want to just briefly just share just a little bit about CFEC and what we do and where our other liaisons are from. So as you can see on the screen, we have 5 liaisons. We have an upstate rep, Lorelei Swanson. We have an upper central rep, is liaison is Julia Beatty. Renina, our moderator, is our PD regional. Then it's me, and then our Midlands liaison is Lorraine Patel, Galito Patel. Okay, so one of the biggest things that, like, when we talk about true communication and understanding that this right here helps every aspect of a child's life, because when you're thinking about parent communication, this is the basics of where the communication starts, and it also helps the children understand that when we have two-way communication, that we are a team. Can anybody tell me what's one communication tool that you use during your when you're with parents? And you could just put it in the chat. Tell me some of the tools that's work for your parent communications.
Yeah, one social media, flyers, newsletters, newsletters and flyers, school Facebook page, email.
Okay, and those are really great ones. So welcome to the session. I'll be your facilitator today. My objectives for this session is that participants will walk away with awareness of strategies for effective and efficient school communication in this critical time of need and recovery. Understanding the importance of the process of communication. And I'm just going to give you some tools to make your own ingredients of the hamburger approach. These are best practices, and I think the reason why these are best practices is because sometimes when we are thinking about the normal things that we do, I think now in 2022, we have to be a little more innovative in how we connect with families. And so when we're going through the slides, just kind of think about your school and what kind of communication tactics you're using and what kind can you take from the presentation. This is one of my favorite quotes. If you like your students to be successful, you will need to rearrange the letters in the parent and add an R from relationships and turn a parent into a partner. Without partnership, it's hard to communicate with a partner if it's only a one-way communication. So think about that when we talk about how we communicate with parents and how we build trust. Okay, so the first thing is the recipe for a great hamburger starts with establishing the bun, the building buns. So if you've ever been to Burger King, they always say, you know, you can have it your way. And there's so many different hamburger places now, and then everybody's letting you customize how it works. So when you're thinking about real engagement, you're thinking about the communication and the keys to success, it's the 6 types of parenting involved in framework. If you're established, if you know anything about Joyce Epstein, she talks about these 6 things. And I have found these 6 things to be some of the most important tools to use when you think about using communication with parents. Parenting helps families establish home environments to support their children as learners. Communication This is useful for effective forums for school to home, to communicate, volunteering. Volunteering looks different in 2022 than it has in any other capacity. Recruiting and organizing of the school's volunteer program. Learning at home is where we connect what we're learning in the classroom to real world experiences, what our children have an opportunity to do at home, including parents in the decision-making process, parents as partners, collaborating with the community to identify resources and services for the community. Let us be great. So one of the biggest things is at the beginning of every school year, setting expectations for both parents and for students at the beginning of the school year. So let us be clear. When you're clear about the expectations, families understand exactly what their goal is. And so beginning with the end in mind. And so one of the things is, Dr. Coots said this to me. And so that's why I have my hat on. Dr. Coots is one of our co-project directors, right? And so when we think about communication and what the end goal is, and I told her this, I said, Doc, you know, when you think about the end goal, you think about, you really want all the kids to get this graduation hat. And she said, well, Claressa, think bigger. And I said, what do you mean? She said, think about it. Getting the graduation hat is not the end. And I said, you're exactly right. Because we want them to be graduates, but what do they do after they graduate if we haven't given them the tools that they need to actually be successful? So when we're creating partnerships, it opens up the communication to build trust throughout their life. And so then we deal with the whole child. And then what happens is they become civic learners, and then they become lifelong learners. And then all the tools in order to lead up to this cap, they pass it to the next generation. So being clear begins with the end in mind. And so that's why my hat is so significant, because she said, it's not just about getting that graduation hat. Once they get that, if we haven't given them the tools to move to the next level, how have we really sustained helping the whole child? So we have to be clear. Intentional communication, tomatoes, and I say tomatoes, you say tomatoes. I say that a lot because when you think about how we communicate, I will say that I don't necessarily like to talk on the phone a lot. I'm working with different schools. I have to talk on the phone, and I have to do a lot of emailing, and I like to be in person. Like I'm an in-person kind of lady. Like I like to see the people so I can actually go with the people, right? So I can I really go off moods, and I like to be around people so I can it just kind of makes my day go better when I can actually see the people versus being virtual or being, over email, right? So one of the tools is when you're communicating with any family is being intentional about how you communicate. Some of the families need different types of communication. So some of the students that I used to work with, I used to write down every aspect of, okay, so if your mom works third shift, I know that I cannot contact her in the middle of the day because she's worked a third shift. So it's a good chance that she's sleeping. We have to set up intentional times to engage with families, so to be intentional. If we know that they're not actually going to be able to talk at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there is no purpose in calling them because that's not intentional. That just means we're making the call knowing that it's a good chance they're not going to actually pick up. Each time we communicate, like whatever's going on in the classroom, we must do it more than one time. So when you think about an ideal student and how they learn and what they're accomplishing, each week it should be something positive, some kind of call home. We can have student of the month, spotlight of the day, student tips for parents, any type of communication so that we can start to build relationships and build trust with our families so that they'll know that we're not just calling today because Claressa's in trouble again. We have to put those positive deposits in.
There you go.
Pickles of purpose for sour days. I was a behavior specialist a couple years back. And one of the things that I always remembered is that pickles of purpose for sour days is one of the most important things that you can do, because when you contact families early, then they know that you care, because like if you only contact them when stuff is happening, that is a issue. Because if you think about it, so one of the things I do every year is I have a 14-year-old, and she'll be 15 in November. Each year we do a all about me page. During the all about me page, we tell about everything, her favorite color, what her goals are for the beginning of the school year, what she wants to do, how to contact me if she needs contact, how to contact her dad, how the hours of business where I can speak to them, and it kind of gives them an overview of who they have in their class, right? So one of the things is when you send their scholars like positive notes and those things like to their home address. Her teacher put on there, it was a joy to have Keegan in here. I enjoyed going to watch her volleyball game, because that's what we put on her sheet, that she plays volleyball for the school. It really made me feel better because she took the time to actually set out and call me purposely. And it was very intentional because she teaches her ELA. ELA is one of her favorite subjects. So just finding at least one positive comment to make about a student. And even if you have like a jar, you put all the students' name in a jar, and each day you pick one student out just to say, or one parent out just to say, I appreciate you coming to the session last week. Did that session work out for you? Because it's almost like you're surveying the parents also to see, was this a good time? What else, the resources we sent out Friday, are they working for you? So it kind of lets us know, the critics, how did we do? Because sometimes we don't know how we did, right? So make sure that when you are communicating, you're communicating even when they are sour days, because we got to do it before. So when those days come, we put enough deposits in that the parents are going to actually receive these sour purposes of the day that we have to talk about. Jesus, you're great. Positive messages to parents. I think that this is helpful because like when you write positive messages, it makes you feel really good. I had my teacher, one of my favorite teachers, every single school year, she sends me a card. And Miss Lee Corey always sends me a card, but it's always a handwritten card. And it makes people feel real good when you've taken your time to actually write a handwritten card. People never forget those things, and always it makes them feel good. So even if you just say, you know, like, dear parents, this is Miss Hinton. I'm writing to let you know how pleased I am with Keegan's recent success in my class. You will be happy to know that she scored really good on her English test. I know you are as proud as I am. And just letting them know that you appreciate everything that the students are doing in the classroom, because when you do that, you build trust. And we know, like I was explaining to one of my friends, like, even if Keegan is going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to be there because I want to see her say the Pledge of Allegiance in 10th grade. If she's saying it, I want to be there, because if they've invited me personally, it makes you feel good when you got a personal invite, a personal message, because they intentionally ask you to come. That means they really want you to be there. Condiments of care. So, you know, like when you go, and one of my favorite places now to go is to Smash Burger. Okay, so Smash Burger, you can kind of, they have all these condiments. They have pico, they have bacon, they have barbecue sauce. I mean, everything you could imagine that can go in a hamburger, they have. Think about how many condiments of care we can give parents when they come into a building. Think about how we establish rapport. How do we greet parents when they first come in? How do we help them understand? One of the biggest things I always say is nonverbal skills are like one of the number one things, because you can tell a lot about how people care just about how their body language is, how their facial expressions are, and verbal things. Like, even if, you know, like, it's nice to see you every morning, like when you greet your parents and you greet your students, letting them know that I'm happy for you to be here. Like, if you notice, when I first got on, I'm always happy to see Renina. She's always smiling. And so it doesn't matter, like, whenever I see her, she's always smiling. So I know that she's always happy And I know she's happy to see me, but I know she's always happy. So that makes me feel better about even doing this presentation, because Renina's here, Dr. Coots is here. And so it just makes you open up, and then it makes you feel, I think Monique was on here. Monique said, are you nervous? I just feel like I'm talking to the rest of my family. Ask questions that they can really answer. Like when you asked him, how are you? Every time the thing is not going to be, well, I'm doing good, because that is, to me, that is repetitive. When you really want to know and you really built a relationship, they'll really tell you how they're really feeling. Well, I'm not feeling good because her math grades went down 2 points. I'm trying to find some other resources. They'll let you know what condiments they actually need so we can actually help them get to their next level. The last thing I'll say is when you're asking questions, we have to master the art of active listening. A lot of times we're listening to respond, but when you're even doing the listening part, I heard you say, the I statements really help, because it lets them know that you were actively listening to everything that they had to say. And so that's very important. The positive patty. So I'm really big on how the burger is actually cooked. So when I go, I always say medium well, because depending on which smash burger you go to, you have to tell these people, like, listen, don't cook it too hard, because once it's hard, the middle of it is not soft. So think about all of the strategies we have to use when it comes to encouraging parents. Every parent is not going to like their hamburger the same way. So when we're surveying parents, every time, it doesn't have to be a paper survey. If I'm on, we've had, like earlier this week, we had a parent spotlight day at one of the elementary schools. And when I was surveying the parents about, does this time work for you? I asked them 2 questions. I said, hey, how are you? And would listen to their response. And then I asked them, is this a good time for us to have the parent night? Or would you rather a later time or earlier time? What time works best for you? And what I was trying to do is see if 5:30 really works. In Columbia, 5:30 is kind of not a good time when it comes to traffic, because a lot of them said, it took me a long time to get here because I had to leave work early, because the traffic at 5 o'clock is going to take me a good 45 minutes to get here. And so that's one of the things we surveyed. And we said, so next time when we do it, we can really do it at 6 o'clock, or we can really do it at 4 o'clock, because maybe we may have more parents if we look at the time. Consult with parents about preferences in calling. If we know we have a focus group, every school has between 5 and 10% of parents that we really have to reach. We have to consult with the parent of what is best for them. Meaning, if they drop their student off in the morning, that may be a good time to give them information, but it may not be a good time to have the conference. Making the consult available for the parents. So it has to be tailored to their need. And we get more bees with honey when we tailor it. And it's intentional of what time they need, because they can actually sit and talk when it's on their time, or meet them where they are. Like if you go to their community centers, that's important. If you have a grocery store that you see a lot of parents in, it's good to make those partnerships with those grocery stores, because we know there are certain times throughout the month that there's a lot of family shopping. Why not have your after school flyer ready? So when you're going to the grocery store, you can already have a stack of flyers ready to say, we start after school next week. I'd love to see your children there. Because what we're doing is getting the information out so people will know that these are the things we have coming up. Make referrals and information, like put bulletin boards up. Like I heard somebody say newsletters. Make the newsletters more innovative. Like if we have a newsletter that goes out on the computer with Dojo, then we have another, the same version goes out through the mail. We may have another one that's on the school website. So seeing it more than one time on 3 different areas makes it available for more than just Pacific parents. It makes it available for lots of families.
Clarissa, you moved the slide up just a little.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You see?
Yes.
Yes. provide information that parents can really use. Like when we're talking about, if we're talking about reading, tailor it to the grade level. We know reading is important for 30 minutes, but how many words should I know when my daughter is in kindergarten? How many first grade? So when you tailor it to what the child that they have, it makes it very intentional. And then it kind of puts them in the notion that they care about my specific child. Because a lot of times when we're giving out information, we'll say reading is fundamental, right? We know reading is fundamental, but when you say read for 30 minutes, what's the purpose of somebody in kindergarten reading for 30 minutes and they might not know that many words? So think about when we're giving out the information, whatever we're providing, do we link it to learning, and do we link it to the family that we're actually serving? Capitalize on parent attendance at the neighborhood and community events. Let families see you in their setting. So one of the best tools, one of the best practices I've ever used is being where they are. Every time we have a meeting, every time we have an event, it cannot be at the school only. It has to be in their community where they're the most comfortable at, because you have to remember, a lot of times when we come from school, a lot of trauma that's happened at school, who wants to be where they've had some rough challenges during their life? Nobody. So a lot of times when it comes to events, why not partner with the community center to support what they already have going on? And then the school is coming alongside to support that. Okay, so you're doing basketball tonight, right? We can do basketball and books. Get our reading specialists to come out and give out books. Get our teachers that are in first grade and third grade to come out and give out books on their level. So the tables be set up from kindergarten to fifth grade. So then if the parents are looking for, well, I need some books for my child, the books are set up from kindergarten all the way up to fifth grade. And then we're intentionally making it so our children have books in every area. So again, I asked, how do you want the burger cooked? What would you like? Would you like fries with that, or have it your way at Burger King? These are, this is just a flyer that I usually give, like when I'm in person, the hamburger for parent communication. And just an overview of what we went over is establishing the bond. That's when we build the partnership and the key parenting frameworks with parents. Intentional communication was the tomato to scholars and their family. Let us be great. Parents and teachers working as a team to meet expectations for their scholar. Pickles of purpose. Positive deposits for challenging days. Condiments of care. Active listening techniques for challenging conversations. 6 is cheeses, you're great. Positive points to share with parents about their scholar. The last one is positive patties. Positive strategies to engage parents to be a part of the school community. What are some things when we talk about communicating during COVID-19, communication looked very different. And I think COVID-19 helped us see that we got to be more innovative. And we knew that technology was a boom, but we really didn't get to use it until we had to use everything we had when it came to technology. Renina, are there any questions in the chat?
Yes, will you share the slides and or the last slide with all the different parts
I
of the book?
will. Yeah, this one right here. Hunger for
Correct.
Communication. Yeah, I
Yes.
can share it.
Are there any additional questions? Clarissa, do you have anything else to share? In wrapping? Yeah.
I hope that the presentation helped you. If ever you want me to come to your school to do this presentation for your teachers or administrative team, I would be more than happy to do that. I also will be in Charleston tomorrow to see some of my Ms. Robinson and some of the schools in Charleston tomorrow. And so I hope to see y'all tomorrow. Monica, y'all coming to the summit tomorrow? Can't wait to see you. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate it. Oh, Miss Llewellyn.
If that's all, Clarissa, you have some nice comments in the chat box.
Yeah.
Very engaging presentation, very informative presentation. Just want to say thank you for all the useful tips and helpful information shared. I truly enjoyed your presentation as well. Clarissa will be sharing the presentation with everyone. Several people asked in the chat box. So just letting you all know that she will be sharing the presentation. If you all have any more questions, we will stay on the presentation for a few additional minutes.
Did she give us her contact information?
Yeah, I can.
Some of us were in another session that was canceled at the last minute. So we came on late, and if we could possibly see that information again, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, ma'am.
If you would share your email address as
Yeah.
well.
I
Clarissa.
hit it too fast, Renina. Sorry.
We have a comment, love the ingredients.
Thank you. Thank you.
For those of you who want the contact information, Clarissa email is in the chat box as well as her contact number. You are awesome, Clarissa.
Thank you.
That was in the chat.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
But I know you're
Thank you,
awesome as
Nick.
well.
Thank you.
Someone loves the grocery store idea. Very good information. I came late, but they will love the presentation. So please remember to share.
Yes, I will.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And Gina gave us a shout out as her coworkers.
yeah.
Someone wants you to move the slide up just a little bit so they can see the number 7.
Okay. Number 7, positive patties.
So can you put it all on the screen at one time, you think?
Let's
Maybe
see.
1 through 7. If not, just, I guess,
Yeah, I can. I think I can. Let's see.
If you change the percentage of it,
Uh,
then go to 75.
Okay, so let's see. Presentation.
there you go.
Listen, whoever just helped me, I appreciate it, because girl, I was over here struggling.
You're welcome.
I was trying to get it on presentation mode, but you know, technology of fellas if we ain't careful.
So this is Gina Kuntz. Did I hear correctly that there are several of you who joined late because your session was canceled? And I'm just asking for clarification. There is time. Did you ask if Clarissa could kind of go through the whole presentation again? We do have time. I just want to make sure that there would be people who have left the other presentation and were asking for that again. Did I hear that correctly? If maybe you could put in the chat if you want the presentation for Clarissa to kind of walk through again. Oh, great. Clarissa, you up for it again? It looks like
Sure.
there are several people.
Yeah, I can do it again.
All right.
Okay, so during this session, we're going to talk about effective and efficient tools to communicate during this critical time of need during school with parents and families. understanding the importance of communication techniques that we can use with school-age children using a hamburger approach. Examples of the application of the hamburger approach in communication between schools and home. If you like your students to be successful, you'll need to rearrange the letters in parent, add an R for relationships, and turn a parent into a partner. That's one of my favorite quotes. So the recipe for a great burger starts with establishing the buns. One of the best tools of success when it comes to the 6 types of parent involvement framework is parenting, communications, volunteering, learning at home, and decision-making, and collaborating with the community. Helping parents establish home environment to help their children learn. So one of the examples I use when we look at parenting is what routines do we have for our night routine, our morning routine, and afternoon routine? How do we get set up for the following day? Communication, using effective forms for schools and home to communicate. How best can we communicate with families? What strategies do we have in place where families can actually communicate at school from home? Volunteering looks so different in 2022 because of COVID and all the things that's been happening with the stuff that's just came out. How do we volunteer? We were talking about this yesterday, like parents want to be volunteers. So now they're letting parents go on field trips again. And one of the things I asked if like when we had to pack over 1,100 bags at one of my schools the other day, and we had at least 4 parents come help and volunteer to help us set up our bags so we can make sure all our families receive those. So that's another way to volunteer. Learning at home, understanding what your child is learning during the school year and how can you assist them in recognizing what opportunities that we have at home that we can relate real world experience to school life and school to home. So getting them to understand how can we make this thing work together, including parents in all decision-making plans when it comes to your SIC, PTO, all of those things are important to have the parents. For example, I know a lot of Title I schools have school compacts. What do the parents feel about the compact? How do they feel about how we're sending out information? Letting them know that they are one of the best people to get the information from so that we can do better. A lot of times when people look at decision-making and those things and we survey, we always look at the survey as this is our grade, when really it's not our grade, it's our starting point. Surveys help us start, understand where can we start and how can we get better. Collaborating with the community. What community center, what community events do we have that we can actually come alongside and support in our communities? Let us be clear. I talked earlier about, I know people are wondering that just came on why I have my graduation hat on. I talked to Dr. Coots and Dr. Coots just was on and she said to me, we were talking about setting expectations and I was saying like, you know, everybody thinks that the key to that all that we want is our children to get this graduation cap and that is it. And she said, Claressa, you got to think deeper. And I said, okay. And so she said, think about, we want them to get the graduation cap, but we really want them to be good people, civic learners, and we have to give them tools in order to take education from one generation to the next. We really have to give them more than just this graduation cap. If we don't give them the tools to have the graduation cap, it's almost good to say that it's really pointless if they have no tools with a graduation cap and they can't get a job because we hadn't given them structured routines. We hadn't given them any kind of social emotional learning skills. So just making sure that this is not the end all be all, just to get this graduation cap. This is not the end of it. This is actually the beginning. Creating partnerships that build trust, understanding where we want our children, where the families want their children to be, how can we support them in getting their children to that level. Intentional communication. We talked about how being intentional about the communication. If we have families that work in the nighttime, that's not intentional. If we're calling them at 8 o'clock to say, these are some of the things we have going on at school when they're at work, it's a good chance they're not going to be able to answer. So just being intentional about why we're calling, asking open-ended questions while we're communicating, asking them about their ideas and how they feel about some of the things we have going on, making positive calls home, just to have dialect with the families, being intentional. I talked about one of the strategies I use each year is I have a student success plan written for my daughter, and we share it with all of her teachers. Each one of her teachers gets this by email, and when we have our student conference night, I take another copy just because I want to make sure that they got it. So they understand we're beginning with the end in mind. Keegan wants to be a lawyer. In order for Keegan to be a lawyer, these are things we have to do. When Keegan has challenges, these are the challenges that she knows she has. These are ways to combat those challenges. Pickles of purpose for sour days. We know that there's going to be some sour days with our students because no school year is necessarily going to be 100% perfect, because we know everybody has one of those days. So regularly communicating with parents about some of the great things that their students are doing is very important. So when we have to call for that sour day, like today was not a great day, using the hamburger approach even for that. Like when you think about 4 positive to 1 negative, what are some things you know about your student that you can convey to your parents that they are doing that is great? Find at least 1 comment to make about your student each grading period. Use a mailing list to track the notes sent. So every month, you should be able to send out some positive note, even to parents. Like think about like when we have our events and you have parents who show up to every last one of them. It's nice to get a nice note to say, thank you for coming, Ms. Thompson, to this event. I appreciate you being so supportive of our event. Would you like to join the PTO? Something to let them know that we really care about them being there, and it's very personal. Positive messages to parent. This makes any parent, Jesus, you're great. Like when I hear a great comment, like I got a great email from one of Keegan's teachers, and she just said that, she was a joy to have, and she always comes to school ready, and it makes you feel good to know that, listen, they see all my hard work. And it makes you feel good to know that people notice that we've been working hard to make sure that every day she goes to school, that she's ready for the team. So just making sure that, you send those positive messages to parents, because a lot of times parents hadn't got lots of awards or lots of thank yous, because like I told you, I could get a lot of cash apps. Keegan will send me lots of cash apps, but she don't always say, thank you, mama, for doing this, that, and the third. But it's important that people give us our flowers while we're here. Condiments of care. I gave the example earlier about if you go to a hamburger place like Smash Burgers, they give so many condiments. I mean, it's so much stuff on a bar. Like just thinking about it makes me want to, like after this presentation, it makes me want to just go to Smash Burgers just to get his burger, just to put, some pico on it, whatever I want on it. That's how we feel about condiments of care with parents. Think about all the support that you could give a parent that works a 3rd shift job, has 3 children, single parent. What condiments can you give them to help them establish a rapport with you so they can have a positive thinking about school? When you demonstrate concern with parents, it makes you feel so good when people understand. One of the biggest things I always say about the condiments is being an active listener, waiting for them to let them finish, be very kind, giving them, verbal thank you. Yes, I understand. One of the biggest things that I can say is when the parents are saying things and then it's your turn to speak, giving them I statements. I heard you say, because what that means is that you were actively listening and you understood exactly what they were saying. So that's very important. The positive patties, I said that every patty that someone has is not, I'm going to look like me and Renina's patties may not be the same. Every parent doesn't need the same thing. So that means that when it comes to surveying, you don't always have to survey with a paper. It doesn't always have to be a piece of paper. It could be a phone call to say, hey, how you doing? I see that you came to the event last night. How'd you think it went? That's a survey, because you're asking them about the event. Well, what time do you think would be better? Okay, so you had an issue with how long the lines were, but what's something we can do different the next time? Consult with parents about the best ways to receive messages. It's a good chance, like on Keegan's communication log, I always put text me or email me, because it's a good chance that I always have two phones. So I'm going to get the message one way or another. Calling is not always good unless it's after 4. And I actually put this on her communication log that after 4 will be better for me when you call me. If you want to call me and have a conversation, because if it's intentional, it's got to work for my benefit. Give them information in more than one place. I talked about going to a grocery store and partnering with them, because if you go to Walmart right here in Columbia, they have every school in Richland 1, they have a stand where they have all of their information there. If we're having an after school program, I can take the information and put it right in Walmart. All those flyers will get taken, because that's where the families shop the most. So just being intentional about why I'm going to put these things there is so important, because we know the families, this is the grocery store that they shop at, or this is the laundromat that most people have. This is the biggest subdivision we have. Why not get the information out to the most important places? Because we know that these are going to serve the population, our focus families that we need to serve. Offer any class that you have, any session, more than one time in more than one place. One of the things that I always see, like when I go to different schools, is we always think, like even when I was doing, parent engagements in one school, that we have to do an event that is stationed in one school. We don't have to be at a school to do a reading literacy event. I can go to a car loop and do a literacy event, just to say, because if all the linking to learning we're doing is trying to get our children to what is their grade level, what is their reading level, I can take a reading chart outside to the car loop at 1:30. I can at least talk to 50 parents about, okay, so your daughter's on cue. This is where your daughter should be at 3rd grade. If this is what the literacy event is to talk about where our children are supposed to be, we got to capitalize on those things, because anybody knows, I've seen it everywhere. If you go to an elementary school at 1:30, you can see at least 100 parents just that fast in the car loop. And we've done the same event that we've done the night before, the literacy event, to give out reading level material. If you know that they have Q, all you have to do is, I'll say you have Q. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take this reading card out with me, and I have books from A to Z. Oh, you read Q? Okay, so here's some books that I can give you. This is what your child's reading level is. Have your literacy coach help you do these things, because we got to capitalize where we can. Everything is not a sit down and come to the event and sit down and socialize. A lot of people like it when it's just them. It's personalized to them. So I don't know what I did. Let's go back. It's very touchy. So an overview of what we learned during the session was establishing the building bonds, the key to successful partnership framework with families and parents. Intentional communication was the tomato to the scholar and their parents. Let us be great, parents and teachers working as a team to meet expectation for their scholar. Pickles of purpose, positive deposits for challenging days. Condiments of care, active listening techniques for challenging conversations. Jesus, you're great. Positive points to share with parents about their scholar. And number 7 is positive Patty's. I can't see that. Positive Patty's. It's real touchy, Renina. You see it? Sorry.
Yeah, it went away.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. Maybe I should just space bar. Yeah, there it goes. How do you want your burger cooked? Would you like fries with that? Or have it your way at Burger King? And so the last one was positive strategies for parents
To engage parents
to engage parents. I can't see it with the
to
little-
be a part of the school community. Positive parents. It's positive strategies to engage parents to be a part of the school community, number 7.
Yes.
And for those who came on late, we did share that Clarissa is going to share these slides after the presentation. Do anyone have any questions for Ms. Thompson? One of the attendees said, so glad they jumped on. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Patricia said, thanks for the recap.
You're welcome.
We're gonna stay on for a few more minutes. If there are any questions for Clarissa. And also be reminded that we're gonna do, please return to the main session at 2 p.m. for the closing remarks from Dr. Green and Mr. Jameson. Oh, someone said burger's so good, we ordered it twice. Great job. That was cute.
Yes.
Great job, Clarissa. This is Miss
Miss
Burton.
Burton, I knew
Hello.
that was you. How are you?
I'm
Thank you.
great.
Curtis, are you still on here?
I am.
I said Curtis.
Yes,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
am.
I was just
I am.
wondering if you were gonna end the recording, that's all.